Hi guys, welcome to today's game. I'm going to be playing Dan today, and we're playing the attack on the Shevadino Redoubt. This was an assault by Napoleon 2 days before the Battle of Berardino, where he sought to eject the Russians from one of their pre-prepared positions, the Shevadino Redoubt, and Davout and his first corps, supported by elements of Montbrun and Nantussi's cavalry corps, sought to eject forces of Russians from the redoubt and from the villages of Shevardino itself and Dorino down here. So good defensive positions for the Russians. They've got a small regiment deployed in this village here, 3 battalions of line troops. They've got 2 battalions of Jaegers and an artillery battery occupying the redoubt itself. We've got some hussars in support of the Russians in that position there. And we've got another Russian regiment in Shevardino of 4 battalions, 3 battalions of line, 1 battalion of light, and an artillery battery. And the Russians also have some grenadiers available in reserve. For the French, we've got Davout attacking, and he's going to be using the 25th line, the 57th line, the 61st line, and the 11th line. And of those, the 57th is a good elite and veteran formation. The other ones are all regular line troops. And the French will also have some cuirassiers and lancers in support. So the Russians in this game had a couple of battalions per the scenario of cuirassiers. I don't have those troops, so we've simply got 1 unit of Russian light cavalry, and rather than having 4 units of French heavy cavalry, we'll assume 2 units of heavy cavalry from each side have cancelled one another out. So the French will simply be deploying with 2 units of heavy cavalry in this scenario. All right, so the French don't start on the table as they're advancing to eject the Russians from these positions, and we'll see how the game carries on. So French victory conditions are to capture the redoubt, and they achieve a glorious victory if they capture the redoubt with their first assault and then hold it for the rest of the game. For the Russians, they need to make sure they carry on holding the redoubt, but also make sure they don't lose Shevardino as well. And if they achieve that, holding both the village and the redoubt, they get the glorious victory. All right, we'll start with rolling for ADCs, and who's got initiative on the first? The Russians have rolled 3 ADCs, and they have allocated all 3, given that they're fundamentally on defensive at this part of the game, all 3 to their main artillery battery in the redoubt. Dan is wrestling with a decision. He's working out whether he wants to put a forwards order on his cavalry and deploy them straight onto the table and see if they can ride down the guns in the redoubt. We'll see what he chooses. All right, well, Dan's bringing all the Napoleonic spirit with him today, so he's only got 4 ADCs, but he's really going for it. So he's allocating 2 ADCs to his cuirassier regiments to give them a forwards order to try and assault the redoubt, and he's also going for infantry assault on the 57th, which is his elite infantry, see if they can support and also follow into the redoubt, and then we'll see where the rest of his brigades go. So we'll roll for activations. I'll start with the Russians. I'll go for my artillery battery. They do go active. And that's the Jaegers they're attached to, so the Jaegers are active. My left-hand brigade is active, and my right-hand brigade is active, and my cavalry reserve is active. All right, all active for the Russians. Let's see how the French do. Do you want to roll, Dan?
Yep. Start with 5 don't I?
You have 1 cavalry regiment and 4 infantry regiments. Put a dice where you want your commander-in-chief to be, and that will be where they come on once you've rolled it.
I'll have the commander-in-chief here as well.
Yeah, no, sorry. For each regiment, just put a dice down where they're going to enter the table, if you see what I mean.
And there. Yeah, I think.
Okay, let's roll for activations then.
Do I want to do the cavalry first? I'll go from this side, I think.
Okay.
This is normal infantry. No.
They're hesitant, they don't come on the table. This one is...
The infantry, assault infantry.
Okay, so this is the 57th.
Nope.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Your cavalry.
Come on.
No.
No.
No. Oh my God. The French really don't want to come on the table.
No.
No. I think you've got one more regiment you didn't roll for, which is that single dice down there next
I've
to...
rolled all 5.
Oh, you rolled all 5? I thought you'd only rolled 4. So, are we saying that the whole French army has gone hesitant in the first turn and nothing has come on? I've got nothing to fire my artillery at. I have never seen a game like this where the whole enemy fails to turn up. That was a staggeringly unlucky set of rolls, Dan. All right. Well, I guess that's the end of turn 1. We'll move on to turn 2. Okay, after the shambles of activation rolls last turn, we've rolled for activation in turn 2. The Russians have their cavalry hesitant, but have again got artillery assault off on the Redoubt. For the French, better turn. The 57th has gone active and got infantry assault off, and the cavalry, the Cuirassier regiment, has got forwards order, so it can get an extra 4d6 movement or an extra 1d6 charge move. And for Dan, 2 of your further infantry brigades that came on, wasn't it? You have 2 hesitant brigades, is that right?
So those 2 and that one came on.
Right, so we got
that one and not that one.
So the 2 flanking brigades for the French won't come on this turn, but the centre of their assault will start moving. All right, that's it for orders and ADCs. Let's roll for initiative, Dan. Do you want to roll 2 dice? You're on -2, I'm on -1. Well, I only get a 3. And the French got initiative. Perhaps that makes sense, as they're the ones who are doing the attacking. All right, French to go first. We'll start getting their troops onto the table.
I can't see.
Okay, so Dan's really gone for it. So the 57th have got their infantry assault orders off and are approaching the Grand Redoubt. And Dan has gone mega aggressive and assaulted with his cuirassiers right on the first turn, noting that the Russian cavalry, who might do a countercharge, are hesitant this turn, so can't do anything. So the Cuirassier brigade has gone storming up to the Shevadino Redoubt. Okay, so first action of the game will be some defensive fire as they try and hold off this charge by the Cuirassiers. All right, so the Russian guns are going to open fire. They get 3 artillery dice because of the assault fire orders and also the fact that there are large battery. Unfortunately, the Russians have only rolled a 5, and at close range that is 1 casualty, goes up to 3 because of the artillery dice. So 3 casualties on the charging cuirassiers. Let's see if they can charge home. All right, now let's roll for this combat. So the Russians are on 0. The French, because they've taken quite a few casualties because of that artillery fire, are on -1. But the French do get a reroll as they have support from the 2nd Cuirassier Regiment. So the Russians roll a stonking 4. And the French roll a 9. So the French goes down to an 8. The Russians stay on a 5. So at the moment, that's +3 to the French. So you would melee with Alain and charge home. Do you want to stay with that result, or do you want to re-roll? You're not going to re-roll your 5 then, Dan? No, funnily enough. All right, so the Cuirassiers charge in and crash into the battery. We'll see how they do later in the turn. Working out the benefits for this melee. It's not looking good for the artillery. So the artillery are reduced to simply 2 dice being unformed. The Cuirassiers gain dice for being high morale status and for being heavy cavalry. And they had taken quite a few casualties on the way in, and they are assaulting a redoubt, so they lose a couple of dice for that. But still, looking good for the French. Let's see how the guns do. The guns cause 1 casualty. What about the cavalry? Oh my God, they cause 6. I won't even look that up on the table. That's the end of the guns. The French cuirassiers have taken the first part of the Shevadino Redoubt. Well, Dan clearly has his Napoleon shoes on today, and the French cuirassiers have smashed up into the redoubt. They've cleared and routed the Russian artillery battery. They've still got the Russian brigade in there, but they'll be faltering because they've lost a unit to being wiped out. So they'll have to do a falter test. So the French are in a really good position as we just start the next turn, which will be turn 3. Unfortunately for Dan, all his brigades have gone active apart from his cavalry, and despite giving them a reroll, his cavalry rolled a 2 and then a 1. So the cuirassiers are hesitant, having seized the redoubt. So they will be a little bit exposed this turn, and a chance for the Russians to perhaps respond. For the Russians, all their brigades are active, but they had to allocate both ADCs for the Jaeger brigade that's in the redoubt because it's got a falter test. So we'll roll that on camera. We roll a 1. It's not good. We use our re-roll. We roll a 2. So even with the cuirassiers being inactive, the Russians have vacated the redoubt. It's tragedy. It's arguable at the end of turn 3 that Dan may have already won this game. But anyway, the Russians do have reserves. We are going to come back. We are going to retake the redoubt. All right, with this tragedy unfolding in front of us, we'll go on to charges in turn 3. Okay, so we completed movement on turn 3, pretty active for the French. So this reinforcing brigade has arrived on table, and no, this one was here already, wasn't it, Dan? And that one's now moved up to the river line with its skirmishers. Another brigade has moved on to reinforce, and this is a second line brigade, but going to try and reinforce the holding on the redoubt, still occupied by the cavalry. And the 57th and their elite unit haven't need to show their prowess yet. They're just looking like they're going to move up to occupy the redoubt, and they'll be very tough to dislodge. And then finally, Dan has brought his final brigade on to pressurise the Russians in Shevadino down here. The Russians have moved forward slightly to put some pressure on the French, put some flanking fire into the forces moving up into the redoubt. And if we look into the village over here, you can see some of the Russian units are starting to deploy out of the village to again put pressure back towards the huge hole they have in the centre. But I think we'll be on a relatively quiet turn or two as everyone adjusts to this massive shock we've all taken at the beginning of the game. All right, that's movement done. We'll now do firing in turn 3. Okay, so we've done activation. All Russian brigades are active. For the French, their 2 left-hand infantry brigades went hesitant. They didn't have any ADCs or rerolls, but all of Dan's key attacking troops are active. The Russians have initiative for this turn. We'll start movement, as I don't think there are any charges. We'll have a think about that. See if we do any charges at the start of turn 4. All right, the Russian hussars have countercharged against this unit of cuirassiers who are outside the redoubt, trying to hold back this French attack for a part of this turn. Let's see if this delaying action works at all. So charge results as the Russian hussars charge home against the cuirassiers. Right, rolling for this charge, it's +1 to the French. Russians only get a 5. French get a 10. Really isn't the Russians' day. So you're on an 11, so you have won by 6. Cavalry versus cavalry, -6. I retreat, I take 1d3 casualties, and you take the ground. All right, we're just about to start turn 5. You can see Dan's deployed his brigade over here into line to keep some pressure up on the village of Shevadino. The Prussians, you can see, Russians are starting to deploy out of the village to potentially put some pressure on the redoubt. The cuirassiers have now fully occupied the Russian position, and the 57th are about to move in. Over on the right, the Russians here have moved out of this village and putting a bit of pressure on the French line down here. But again, the French have deployed into line, and we just had a light exchange of musketry with a couple of casualties on one another, but not much else in that turn. We'll move on to ADCs in turn 5. All right, turn 5, Dan got activations on the 57th and the cuirassiers. A couple of his other brigades went hesitant, but none too critical, and he has charged his cuirassiers again. So the left hand of these 2 regiments, and it's charged into the currently unformed and retreating hussars who didn't go active this turn, who are hesitant. So that looks like it'll be the end of that hussar regiment, and the second formation of Russians broken in the game. So looking good for Dan. Let's do the charge results as he crashes into the hussars. All right, rolling for this combat doesn't look good for the Russians. Russians are on -3, and we roll. Anything with a 1 cannot be good.
You've got 5.
I've got a 5, -3. We have a grand total of 2.
And I've got
How well?
+1 on mine.
And the French have got a +1 for being heavy cavalry. They roll a 10. 10 against 2. They are crushed. The cuirassiers have driven the Russian cavalry from the table. All right, turn 6. Dan still continues to line the river here, and the Russians continue to redeploy to try and strengthen this flank. Over here, the victorious cuirassiers look like they're lining up another charge against some poor Russian infantry. Will they better hold off a charge this turn? 57th and their artillery are now starting to occupy the redoubt, so it's looking a tough ask for the Russian grenadiers that have been summoned to try and retake this position. So let's see what we do, if there are any charges in turn 6. Right, at the start of turn 7, all forces on both sides are active. The French have regained initiative. The French forces are swirling all over the redoubt. This very small unit of cuirassiers is simply because me and Dan have agreed it's sensible they can just wheel round the back south side of that redoubt, even though that's a little bit off table, so they're just wheeling around the back of the redoubt this turn. The Russians continue to reinforce this flank. We've now got 2 battalions and an artillery battery now able to draw some fire on the redoubt. So that might start causing some effect, but Dan is pretty close to making it an impregnable position with artillery and now 1 complete regiment in there and the 2nd regiment moving up into support. Again, tough ask for the Grenadiers. They might arrive next turn, but don't fancy their chances. All right, let's see what happens as we do turn 7. All right, poor play by me. I've been caught off guard. Dan spotted that he had a charge through the woods by one of his, I think these are your 2nd-rate battalions, but they haven't taken any casualties, or just taken 1 casualty as they charged in. So they went for maximum speed, crashed through the woods, and have gone into the flank of this Russian battalion. Let's see what happens as we do charge reactions in the start of turn 7. Right, really fortunately, I've rolled an 11. And Dan, what did you roll?
I rolled a double 1.
You rolled a double 1. So despite Dan's modifiers of +5, the Russians have stood firm. The stoicism of Russian infantry has paid off again. And the French were disrupted sufficiently by going through the woods that they've been thrown back and have been unable to break that attacking Russian column. So this French battalion will move back and we'll get on with normal movement in the turn. And perhaps the tide is turning more tragically still. Dan, we just rolled the risk to general test on your general, and what happened, Dan?
Double 6.
He rolled a double 6, so the general was killed in that assault, and that will cause his brigade to falter as they take their first rebuff of the game. So a bit of hope here for the Russians, and we'll now move on to movement. Right, it's getting close for the final Russian effort, so the Russian infantry battalions continue to move forward, and their artillery battery can now start bombarding the redoubt. Dan's moved his cavalry out of the way and has the 57th now fully occupying the redoubt and his own artillery battery deployed, and this massive infantry waiting to attack as well. The Russians over here are really just pinned by Dan's infantry. The only remaining firing is we've got the Russian artillery battery opening up for the first time this game against the redoubt at long range. So they roll a 7. At long range is only half a casualty. It'll be at -2 for firing at a redoubt. That's still half a casualty. Which doesn't convert, and we do 1 with the casualty dice. So that's 1 casualty on that 1st battalion of the 57th. And that's it for turn 7. Turn 8, it's do or die turn for the Russians now. Their reserves arrive. Can they get control of the redoubt back? All right, rolling for ADCs this turn. Dan, let's roll the falter tests on your brigade down here.
Yes.
Okay, they obey orders. That's really good. And unfortunately for the Russians, despite a reroll, the Grenadiers have faltered this turn, so they haven't come on. So still looking pretty much impossible. All right, let's crack on with turn 8. Charges to declare. Let's roll for initiative, Dan. Having a look from the French side, this is the attack against the right flank. The French have just been a holding pattern and just volleying these Russian battalions here. But they have finally cleared the Russian skirmish screen array with some good shooting this turn, which will cause this brigade, unfortunately, to take a falter test. Over here in the centre, the French heavy cavalry have deployed to fend off any potential threat coming in from this flank of the Russian position, and the French artillery are now opening fire against that Russian line, the one with the purple flags, threatened by this mass of French infantry. All right, Dan, let's see what we do. Let's fire the artillery. Well, that's not going to be very much. That's a 5 at effective range, is 1 casualty on the Russians. Okay, and then finally, any other firing down?
The elite skirmishers?
Yep, firing at the same Russian battalion.
Yep.
So 2 dice. 5, that's another casualty.
That infantry, you can probably shoot at them, and so can that infantry.
They've moved, so it'll be inferior volleys at half effect. Okay, let's do those. First one. No, that'll be a loss of fire discipline, and the 2nd battalion. That'll also be a loss of fire discipline. Right, and then your skirmish screen possibly at the end, just 1 dice.
Oh, just 1 dice.
Oh, they both caused a casualty. I'll let you take a casualty. Right, what are they up to?
Base.
There's a base, okay. And take the casualty marker off. All right, that's it for turn 8, I think. Is that right, Dan? We've fired everything?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And no charges. All right, turn 9. See if the Russians could bring their reserves on this turn. All right, now rolling. I only have 1 ADC this turn, so I only have 1 go at trying to keep this brigade. I lose my left flank. This really is it. I think it's pretty much all over for the Russians. This brigade goes on to savoir-qui-peur. We have no re-rolls. I've lost the left flank. Right, a climactic conclusion to the battle. French infantry have come pouring out of the wood into the artillery battery. No doubt me and Dan will have a discussion as to whether that's a flank attack or I get to fire at him with my guns as he tries to charge in. Down here, this whole brigade got infantry assault order, so it's going in against this Russian line. And the Russians decided that, given that they'd now lost 3 brigades, and this is effectively the last turn as over half the army's been destroyed, they would have a go at trying to recapture the Redoubt. So this battalion has charged the 57th in the Redoubt. Unfortunately for the Russians, this French artillery battery is deemed to be able to provide supporting fire, and we've checked that, and it's definitely in range, so that could be bloody. We start with the Russian charge first. Dan, do you want to roll for your artillery fire? You've got artillery assault, so you do get 2 bonus dice as well, and you're firing at a column, so you get 3 bonus dice. Let's see how you do. Okay, so you get a 6 and 2 extra casualties. Do you want to look at what a 6 is at effective range? No, it's bottom one. Bottom but 1-1.
Bottom but 1-1. 1 casualty.
And 2 bonus casualties, so that's 3 casualties on this unit in the charge. Takes them up to 4. Let's do the charge results for these Russians. Dan's just pointed out that the 57th won a shot too, as do his skirmishers. So let's fire the skirmishers first. They're nice and easy. No, they don't do any casualties. And then the 57th. They roll a 9. That'll be a superior volley. Have a look at what a superior volley does with a 9 down.
4 DT.
4, that's 4 more casualties. So that's 7 casualties on the unit this turn. And it's a discipline test at -2. So we'll just do the discipline test first. See if the Russians get as far as a charge resolution. They roll a 7, so they go unformed, making this charge somewhat less likely. Right, we'll now roll the charge results. Okay, so I'm on -7. I have a good feeling about this. Dan is on a +3. Not looking good for the Russians. I'm on -4. I've lost by 9. The Russians haven't been able to throw the French out of the Redoubt, surprisingly, and are blown back off this line and off the edge of the table. Let's move on and do the French firing, or French charges here. We'll get a defensive volley by this Russian battalion. They've taken only 4 casualties, so this will be a defensive volley at -1. They roll a 4, that'll be a loss of fire discipline and no effect. So we'll move straight onto the charge phase here. Down here, the French are on +1, the Russians are on -1 because of their 4 casualties. We don't do very well, we roll a 4. Dan, do you want to use either of your rerolls?
Don't already win by 5?
You have 1.
+1
I'm down to 3, and you're up to...
I'm up to 9 because of my general.
9. So you've won by 6. So you have already won, so you don't need to risk a reroll. You've won by 6. That's victory. So the Russians have routed back behind their guns, and will now do the charge against the guns. Oh, not too bad. I rolled a 10. And Dan rolled a 3. You don't get a re-roll, Dan, and on a 10, I was on, what, -4?
Yeah.
So I go down to a 6, you go up to a 4, you've lost by 2, so you won't charge home against the guns. Some good news, at least, for the Russians in this turn of tragedy. As Dan has just pointed out, his casualties are 2 bases of skirmishers. Otherwise, for the Russians, you might be able to see it, there's a vast swathe of units sitting on that hill. A resounding victory for the French. This Russian brigade on the right has just taken savoir-qui-peur full to test, so it will fall back from Shevadino village. That will now be occupied by the French. The Shevadino Redoubt, this is a glorious victory for the French. They did indeed meet their victory conditions. They achieved success with their first assault of the game, indeed with their very first attack of the game by their cavalry at the beginning of turn 2. And have held it ever since, and it's squarely occupied by the 57th, who've taken virtually no casualties. And their supporting brigades have forced the Russians back. So although we do have some Russian reserves just starting to arrive on the table there, the other brigade there is also taking a full to test. So we'll see how many ADCs we get this turn. So we only have 2 active brigades, we only get 1 ADC. Let's see what we'd have done on that full to test. A 4, they would have retired, so we would have lost that brigade as well. So the only thing the Russians would have had on the table is their 4 grenadier battalions that have just tried to arrive to take the Redoubt back. So 4 battalions facing the 2 cuirassier regiments and 12 battalions of French. Not a chance. Anyway, really one-sided game. Really aggressive generalship by Dan, great use of his cuirassiers, and perhaps a bit similar to Borondino in terms of those cuirassiers driving into the redoubt and capturing it, although doing it on the first turn really was a surprise. Some great dice rolling, and a great generalship by Dan. So really enjoyed the game. Hope you've enjoyed this video, and look forward to seeing you all next time. Remember, do subscribe, let us have your comments, and see you all soon. Cheers everyone.